So I'm here with Hannah. Hannah's just finished the Exhausted to Energized method with me. Hello, Hannah.
Hi.
Hannah's a mum of two and a school teacher, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
What kind of school are you in? Is it primary or secondary?
Primary, and I teach year one, so the little ones.
Yeah, so you're going back soon now.
Yeah, going back next week.
Ah, exciting. With all the changes.
Yeah, with all the changes, yeah.
So when you when we first spoke with each other, some of the symptoms that you was telling me that you was having was things like problems with your monthly cycle. So really not feeling well for 2 weeks of the month. So tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I was just finding that I had like 2 weeks where I felt terrible, really exhausted, lots of symptoms running up to time of the period, and then 2 weeks where I'd feel okay, but I was still tired, still quite exhausted a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It really did affect me that it was like only 2 weeks of the month that I was feeling okay-ish.
And what was like some of the symptoms that went along with that then?
Some of the symptoms were like severe bloating, sore breasts, exhaustion. I'm trying to think what else. Those were the main symptoms really.
Struggling to sleep at night and hot.
Yeah, struggling to sleep at night, hot sweats, things like that as well. Yeah.
Yeah. And how long had that been going on, do you think?
Oh, probably for a few years. Yeah, probably worse since I had my second child. She's nearly 4 now, so probably worse since then, and like really heavy periods since I had her, since I got my period back after feeding her. So probably about 3 years, to be honest.
So what kind of had you tried anything before to kind of overcome some of those symptoms?
No, I hadn't really tried anything.
Oh, okay. So you're just kind of living with it.
Battled on. Yeah. I was trying to cut out certain foods, but it wasn't really to address that. I just was trying to, think about my health a little bit more.
Yeah, I remember. And then we had a chat on the phone, and just to see if you was a good fit for the course.
Yeah.
And we kind of established that you were. I told you all about the course, which you love the sound of, but you decided not to go ahead straight away. So let's dig into that a little bit, because you won't be the only person who's ever felt like that.
Yeah.
So what was coming up for you at the time? Like, what was stopping you getting help?
I think, in all honesty, there was the financial commitment, and whether it was worried about approaching my husband about that and sort of committing to that. And then also there was probably the time element of just, dedicating time to it, to address those things and thinking, right, can I fit it in? Can I reasonably do this, even though I'm quite an organised person who likes to plan, So those two things really. Yeah.
And then a few months later, you changed your mind. So talk us through that.
Yeah, I changed my mind because I think I've just reached the point where I knew I had to do something to address, the health issues. It did happen to be the lockdown, and I thought, right, I've got a little bit more time to dedicate to this, to take on, new learning for myself. And I just felt like I needed to make the financial commitment and, work around that in order to see benefits and feel better, so that I had more energy to give to my family, really.
Yeah. And so between our first chat and then you decided to join the course, did you try anything yourself? Like, did you try to put anything into place yourself diet wise?
I'd already been over the last few years I've been trying to cut down on dairy, just because of different family circumstances and things that I'd read. Also gluten. I know that the course you don't have to cut out those things, but it's helpful. My dad is celiac, so I was having a few symptoms with the bloating and the different symptoms I was having. I thought, right, I'll try and cut down on that, because maybe hereditary, it's hereditary, and maybe I'm the same as him. So I tried cutting down on that as well. So I had already done that partly, but I wasn't always doing it. It was kind of like, I'd have little bits of it, or and then that was only really the two things that I tried myself. I didn't know how to address the whole picture. I think that was the thing. Didn't know. So I'd done that in isolation, but then looking back now, I know that probably wasn't well, it was probably helpful in some senses, but you know, when it's not combined with everything else, then it's not going to benefit in the same way.
Yeah, and when we were speaking just before we press record there, you said that you felt like you needed the accountability. So talk to me about that for a minute.
Yeah, I think just like, you know, I didn't, even though I'd, you know, like you read things online and you try to address, you know, little bits, it's not the same as having that, that knowledge from yourself, you know, of the whole picture, and, you know, what everybody's individual. So my needs are different from somebody else's, or my symptoms. And just being able to have that, you know, one-to-one accountability and ask any questions, even if they seem, you know, stupid. Or popped up one week and then, you know, it's fine the next week, but you want to ask about that particular thing. I think having that accountability and being able to ask those questions is just like invaluable, really. You know, rather than trying to do that research yourself, it's actually less time consuming than trying to find out information yourself and not knowing if it's accurate, and, you know, things like that. So I needed, and then and just being able to check midweek, and then at the end of the week, you know that somebody's going to check on you, so you know that, not check on, you know, not in that sense, but, you know, check on you in the right sense to say like how you're doing, and so it kind of motivates you to, you know, try and do things properly, really. You know.
And do you feel like you was able to ask like any question?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. I feel like it was sometimes it seemed like a silly question, but there was no judgment. Do you know what I mean? Or I know that from the calls, maybe you answer the same question 20 million times as people go through the process, but you know, you're patient with it, and you know, you just answer the question for that individual, and then maybe link it to something else for that individual that they've said before. So that was, you know, that was really valuable.
Great. And so do you feel like in that 12 weeks where we were working together, do you feel like you was able to overcome what you were hoping to? So was you able to increase your energy? Have you been able to get out of, you know, pain with your menstrual cycle? Tell us how you're feeling now.
Yeah, I've definitely, you know, just seen massive changes. My cycle's like a lot better. I'm just hardly seeing any symptoms now that I had before. You know, that's been a process over the 12 weeks because my cycle changed, you know, and went shorter at the beginning, and, you know, but now, you know, it's back to normal, but it's with the symptoms of, you know, more or less all gone. And then, just a lot more energy, you know, the odd dip in that, but that's probably to do with other factors in life, you know, anxiety and things like that. So just seeing all the results that I wanted to see, really, and more, you know.
And you were saying a couple of things that you picked up on was, one, you said your ability to deal with stressful situations and feel more calm. So has that been you know, a big benefit for you?
I think you know, that was one thing I didn't really sort of like think about, how I was dealing with it or whether I was dealing with it. And I know that, you know, a lot of people on the course and in the group have said, you know, that it really makes you think as a woman about how, you know, whether you make time for yourself, and when you do make time for yourself, then you've got that energy to give to those, you know, to give to your family, but also then probably got that mental capacity to deal with the more stressful situations in a calmer way, because you've had a little bit of time out, or you've made that time for yourself. So I think that's been something I've really learned that, you know, I wasn't really doing before, that I need to do. You know, it's essential to do. And then that's helped with kind of like dealing with stressful situations or anxiety. And then also knowing what foods, you know, to eat, that will definitely help with the anxiety as well. So even going back to work next week, I know I'm going to be taking certain things with me that will help me to deal with that and help me to not kind of like stress eat when I get home, and and things like that. So
and then just before we wrap up, thank you so much for sharing everything that you've shared with us so far. You was telling me before that when you wasn't feeling good, so you'd having these, you know, monthly cycle problems for 2 weeks of the month, but you'd always have a day a week that you was kind of feeling like you had a sore throat. And what was the other symptoms that was going along with that?
Sore throat and just like complete exhaustion, where I'd even like, you know, as I'm putting my kids to bed, I'm thinking like, I need to go to bed straight away because I'm aching all over and feeling really just exhausted, you know, and overwhelmed. I think it was overwhelmed as well. It was like, I just need to go to bed. I need to I need to just, you know, switch off type thing.
Yeah, so it almost sounds like a feeling of like a cold coming on. Is that how it felt?
Yes, yeah, it did.
Yeah, and like when you feel like you need a really early night because you need to overcome it. And so has that gone for you now?
Yeah, it has. I mean, you know, obviously we've been in a different sort of situation with the lockdown and so on, but during that time, but yes, it has. I haven't really had that symptom. You know, I've had the odd time where I felt a bit more tired, or I've had a little bit of a sore throat coming on, but I've known, or I've been able to ask you kind of like, what's the best thing to take?
Yes.
What's the best thing to kind of like combat, you know, nip this in the bud straight away? And, you know, and now I know I'm going into kind of, you know, this situation at school, going back to school, with those tools to use.
Yeah.
You know, I don't expect to kind of feel like that once a week, you know, based on the last few months, but if I do ever feel like that, you know, like a one-off, then I've got kind of tools that I can put in place, to foods to eat, and, you know, supplements or whatever that I can just pick up and, you know, use, hopefully.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that with us. Okay. And what would you say to another woman? So if someone who is in maybe a similar situation to you, where they're feeling like they might need a bit of help, but they're not sure that they can invest in themselves for whatever reason that may be, and they might try and go at it alone, do you feel now that it was a worthwhile investment into your health?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think you don't, you know, I think with anything like cost wise, I think, you know, if you make a sacrifice for something, then there's other thing, you know, then you're able to manage it. You know, sometimes it's just putting that in place, and then you think, right, well, you know, I won't do something else for a little bit while I invest in this.
Yeah,
it's definitely worth that investment, you know, because you're just feeling so much better. I'm feeling so much better. I've got more energy. You know, I know that this is like a lifetime change. You know, I'm not gonna, and even though I haven't, you know, kind of like made my family, you know, follow the same steps, you know, in time, you know, and already, you know, you're making small changes to your family's way of eating and your family's way of doing things, and hopefully that's, you know, it's a long-term investment, isn't it, for your kids, that you want to teach them to nourish their body, and, you know, to take time for themselves. I've got 2 girls, you know, I mean, I don't want them to be in the same situation with their hormones or their cycle, or so it's such a long-term investment. And I think when you can't, like you know, like you say in your, you know, at the beginning, you can't put a price on that, you know. It's just something that is definitely worthwhile.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point that you just raised there. We do actually pass things on in our family line. So, you know, your girls would be, or much more likely to be, suffering the same kind of problems that you have, unless something changes.
Yeah.
So you've got to realise kind of what's going on and bring that balance back. And you've found out what works for you. And so in time, you're able to put that into place for your children as well, and help them avoid the same challenges that you've had, which is, I guess, brings you a lot of peace of mind as a mum. Great, that's so great. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It's been such a pleasure to help you in your journey and watch you blossom and see your growth. So looking forward to continuing the journey.
Thank you.
Right, thanks, Hannah. See you. Bye.